Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm a bird hunter, and this past bird season I tried a couple new things that turned out pretty well, or I enjoyed them anyway. One was to start camping out of the back of my truck during bird hunting trips instead of staying at a motel or a cabin like I've done for a long time. And the second was to start a YouTube channel. And I've really enjoyed both, like I said, and the YouTube channel even more so than I expected. I think just the process of putting those videos together is fun for me. In the course of doing some of the videos, I'd mentioned or shown some little clips of the truck camping setup and got several requests for a more detailed video about the truck camping setup specifically. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And thanks for watching, but also thanks for those comments. That really does help me think about what would be interesting content, hopefully for the channel, and what might be useful for somebody who might want to try something similar. So for today, there are different parts of this. So there was a shower tent, and so I think the longest trip I had this past year was I was out 7 nights. And so you really can't just stay, or at least I can't just in the truck the whole time. So I had a shower tent, a dog trailer, and have set up there. But I think I'm gonna leave those for future videos and really focus on the truck today. Starting with the truck itself. Which truck this is, the camper, or the shell that I got, which I bought with this in mind, and then kind of from there go inside and show you how that's set up, what worked well, and what I might improve or try to change for this coming year. And then wrap up with the electrical system. And so I'm using really electric for everything. I have an electric heater in the back, a coffee maker, and even if it's hot, I can have air conditioning in the back. So we'll go over how that works. Now I do have actually some propane that I use for cooking, and then also propane for the shower tent, which we might get into later. But otherwise it's all electric, and that's worked well. All right, let me show you around. Okay, the truck is a 2019 Ford F-150 XLT four-wheel drive. And you can see it has a smaller mid-size or half back door as opposed to a full door and back seat. And the bed is 6 feet long, and that worked out well. I didn't buy the truck initially with truck camping in mind, but having a 6-foot bed works well. I'm 6'2" and can stretch out, and we'll get more into that when we go inside the truck. The cap is a Lear mid-high rise, and you can see that if you look off the back of the cab that there's a little bit of a high rise there, and that high rise, mid-high rise, gives you about 4 extra inches of headspace inside, which is useful. It's definitely been worth getting this type versus a more traditional cap that runs straight off the back of the cab, to have that extra headspace. They do have a high rise also that I considered, which is taller and even more headspace, but it doesn't have a flat roof, and I wanted to put a roof rack on top, and so that wouldn't work with that. Now this roof rack is a Thule system, and so I actually had when they made the cap, I had this made as part of it. So there's no chance, I didn't do that myself, there's no chance really that that's going to leak, and it hasn't leaked. But the basket itself is a Kurt basket, and it's bigger than what I could get through Thule, and I wanted the bigger basket so it's better to have too much space than too little, I thought, at least. The capacity in terms of weight capacity is 500 pounds for this. At least that's what I was told. And I've had water up there, had it pretty full, but never really come close to 500 pounds. At 500 pounds, though, I would worry a little bit. Probably it's a fiberglass cap, so I would worry if I was doing more overlanding with ups and downs and a lot of vertical pressure like that, I would worry a little bit about that. But it does seem, it's everything that I need for what I'm doing with my truck camping. So for the truck build, I guess this is called a no-build truck build, meaning that nothing is permanently attached to the truck bed, but rather is all in by Velcro. So nothing is bolted or screwed into the truck metal at all with this. Rather, it's all Velcro. And so if I need to use my truck as a truck for whatever reason, I can take all this out pretty easily and put it back in without too much trouble. To start with, I put a bed rug in it for the sides and the bottom and the tailgate here, and this is pretty nice. It's actually padded on the bottom so that it levels off the surface and makes it softer. I think it provides some pretty good insulation and makes it softer for your being on your knees for that. That was an important step here. I think that was worth the price for that. In terms of the cot itself, I bought a cot online that did not have center legs. In other words, it had legs on the front end and legs on the back end, so that it would fit over the wheel well without having to adjust that middle leg system. And it was originally taller than it needed to be, or I couldn't sit up with it as tall as it was, so I cut the legs off and made it a little bit shorter, but still have enough room to put several things under it. And I'll get into that in a minute. The bed, the cot itself was, when I got in it, it was kind of trough-like, more than I wanted. So I ended up adjusting it quite a bit to make it what I wanted. And I'll show you here. I ended up putting, I've got sheets on here. I ended up putting a 1/4-inch plywood base on it and tied it to the frame of the cot so that it wouldn't move, and of course rounded the corners off so that I wouldn't be catching on those. On top of that, I've got a 6-inch twin mattress, which is very comfortable, and on top of that, even a 3-inch foam topper, which makes this very comfortable. I'd say it's as comfortable as my bed at home. I sleep as well on this as I do at my bed at home. On top of that, I've got a 0-degree bag that I got from Cabela's, and then a blanket here at the bottom. In terms of cooking, this past bird season, I did quite a bit of cooking on the tailgate. And I didn't end up using this all the time, but I've made a board. This has got polyurethane on it, but I've got it so I can slide it out and do my cooking on here instead of putting it directly on the tailgate or on the bed rug. And then here I have things that I use every day. And so, or multiple times a day even. So it's very accessible. And so I have my cook stove, and I have, the attachments that I need for hooking up propane. I've got the, pan that I use, and also measuring cup, silverware and dishes and things like that. So this works very well to have this in the back. I do have another piece of wood under here, and I should have cleaned up under here, that I can pull this out if I want to actually set this system up inside. And I did that in Michigan when I was there for a while. And that's one thing that I'm probably going to change for this coming year, to make that a little easier to access, so I don't have to get out of the truck to do that. Something I didn't mention when I was going over the bed rug earlier is that I did put a runner in here. That is the width of this aisle, basically, and it helps to make it a little softer on the knees, because that's primarily where you're kind of crawling up in there. And also, if it gets dirty, it's easy to pull that out and clean it off and put it back in, as opposed to always being right on the bed rug. And let's see if I can get this back over here like it's supposed to go. Okay, now I'm in the back of the truck. And I'm sitting on the bed, and you can see that I've got headspace. This is comfortable to sit on the bed and do what to do whatever I'm going to be doing up in here. I do have to, and you can see here's out the back. I do have to confess that I have, as it turns out, kind of a frivolous side. And there are certain things that I did in here that are a little bit frivolous, definitely not necessary. But, if I'm going to be staying, I'm hoping actually this coming year to do a trip to Idaho, which would be a couple of weeks. And if I'm in here for that long, having some creature comforts or things that are a little bit more like home, then that's a plus for me. So to start with, I put curtains up, and this is one of the frivolous parts of it. I don't know if you can really see it in the video, but those are bird hunting, bird dogs and bird hunting scenario curtains. And these are just, I was able to get them as valances, like window valances. for curtain systems in homes. I found them online, and I found the dimensions that I needed. So I didn't make those. I just bought something that was already available as a window valance. And I attached these with curtain rods and curtain rod holders that I just took out the screws. I put like 3 in for the side windows. I took out the screw that was holding the window in, put the bracket on there, and then put the screw back into it to hold the curtain rod in place. And that has worked very well. And I did the same thing all the way around, and here installed a curtain rod on the back from some bolts that were already sticking out from the cap, and so just made that work all the way around. And I will say that the curtains, having curtains of some sort, is very important, because there are times when I've been in public places, if I'm traveling and I'm multiple nights, I will go actually and stay at a rest stop along the way. And so those are places where I definitely don't want just have open windows and lights in here and everything like that, and it makes it much easier for those kinds of things, those kinds of places. So I would highly recommend the curtains and figuring out some kind of system to be able to do that. I also, as you can see here, I have a table and a lamp. And that's another one of the frivolous parts of this, along with this picture. And my sister-in-law gave me the picture, and I really, really love the picture. It's kind of unique, and so it fit in here perfectly. And so I thought I'd just make it a part of this. The table, I just put 2 boards together in a way that formed an L shape, and attached 2 legs, one up front here, and then one in the back, and then velcroed the table to the frame of the truck there, with the truck bed. And so it's very stable. It's been there the whole time, but it can come out easily if I need it to, but it doesn't go anywhere when I'm driving, and it can hold up a good amount of weight. So that's been very useful. I've got a coffee maker here, and that has been a real plus. I got to have my morning coffee, and if it's really cold outside, preferably before I go outside to have to make it. I also, this is a CO detector, and it's one that's specifically made for campers and small spaces like that. So really, you got to have, I can't stress enough the importance of having a CO detector in your space if you're doing something like this, just because of the potential risk that CO levels get elevated for whatever reason. And for me, I'm using a generator, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But anyway, get a CO detector. I also have a clothes hanging system, and what I did is I glued that, cut a hole in the actual lining for the shell, and put the glue directly against that, and it can hold quite a bit of weight. And how I do this is these are my pajamas still from last bird season. At night, I bring in the clothes that I'm going to put on the next day and have them hang in there, and then put my pajamas on. And that way I can have what I need next morning to put clothes on in here where it's warm, instead of having to go outside for that. Now, in terms of taking things down, so one thing I had considered for a while was a pop-up type tent that would go on the back of the truck, and I elected not to do that because and this is maybe being kind of lazy on my part, but it was I didn't like the idea of having to put that up and take it down every time I wanted to move my truck. And so, for example, again, if I'm staying in rest areas on the way to someplace or back home, I get in at 2:00 in the morning and have to put up a tent and then take it down. So I wanted to do something simpler than that. And plus, when I'm bird hunting, I'm always every day going out with the truck. And so that was one selling point for me for this setup versus a tent. And so in terms of taking things down and putting them back up, all I do when I have it set up like it is now and I'm ready to go somewhere is I take the coffee maker and the coffee mug and put it in that crate there, unplug it, put it in the crate, and then also the lamp, put it in the crate, and anything else that I'm concerned might move around, and then I'm ready to go. And so it's really quick in terms of being able to wrap things up and get on the road. While we're down here, you can see I also have a first aid kit in the corner back there. And this is the heater that I have used all winter, and that worked very well. It's an old heater that I had. And I also have a water jug here that I can replace at this point, but what I did is every night I would put water in here from a larger water source that I have, so that if I'm making coffee or if I want to drink a water or something like that during the night, that I would do that. I would have it there that way. Okay, we're back outside now, and I'm just going to start going over the electrical system. Well, first of all, here's a little container I have for just everything I need, like, you know, multiple times a day kind of thing. The electrical system has two parts, really. It's a generator, which I'll get to in a minute, and then this Jackery system. And let me climb up in here. So this is a 1500 Explorer, and it you know, it's basically just a battery and inverter built in, and but it's got a handle, and so it's very convenient in terms of being able to take it out. And it's also set up for solar use, which I have not done, and I'll explain how I've been kind of recharging this as I need to. But it has enough capacity to everything I've got inside, so the coffee maker, the lamp, and the heater actually can all run off the Jackery, but the heater cannot run all night. It will not run all night off of the Jackery. So it's kind of good for, so I have the heater plugged into it now, but it's not running. But anyway, it's good for, you know, kind of filling in and using if I'm not going to be doing something all night. Now you can see that this has a plug into it, and the way I'm doing this is I have this plugged into I don't know if we can see this, but I've got a power strip up here, and the power strip has the coffee maker, the lamp, and the heater, and anything else I need electricity for plugged into it, and it's Velcroed there, so the power strip isn't going anywhere. And then that comes in, it plugs into the Jackery. Now, in terms of recharging the Jackery, it does have, I'm going to get out of the back of the truck here, it does have, I have a 12 volt power source as part of the cap that I have here. And you can see how that works, kind of like the old cigarette lighter. And so this Jackery has multiple ways you can recharge it. Like I mentioned, one is solar panels, which I haven't tried yet, really haven't needed to. But the other thing you can do is you can plug this in and then plug it into the Jackery when I'm driving down the road, and it charges the Jackery system. The other thing that I do is when I'm running the generator at night, and if it's cold, I run it almost every night, all night, I just plug the Jackery into that generator, and the generator can handle recharging it and running the heater and everything else in here just fine. A really nice feature of this, and I've got another power strip here, if I can get this out without making too big a mess. I have lots of things that I need to charge, like dog collars and things like that. And so if this is charged, this is a nice way to recharge all those things without having to start a generator and burn gas for that. And so what I do is just plug this in, and I can also plug in whatever I need to charge directly into the Jackery if I need to, or I have this power strip, and I can, you know, charge up multiple collars and everything just during any time that I'm at camp, and keep up with that stuff. And that's worked very well. So I've been very happy with the way this works. All right, now to the generator. Real quick, I'm gonna take this off and stick it back in here. I do have something here I'm gonna mention later. This is a chain that I use if I need to lock the generator up. I just keep it right there. But what I've been doing is putting the generator up near the front wheel of the truck so that the exhaust is going out front. And so what this is, it's a Honda EU 2200. It's you know, it handles quite a bit, and it's been very reliable. I think in terms of fuel, I've also got the extra fuel tank. I think that the Honda generator fuel tank is 1 gallon, and the extra fuel tank is 6 gallons. And together, so obviously there's 7 gallons of gas. And what I've found is that if I don't have the extra fuel tank, the 1 gallon of gas in the generator doesn't quite last all night in terms of running heat and everything. So I really need that extra fuel tank to make that work. The with the extra fuel tank, unless I'm somewhere for 7 or more nights, really this lasts the whole trip. You know, if I fill them up right as I'm getting to camp, and I don't have to worry about gas the rest of the time, which is very, very convenient. So if I'm another thing I wanted to mention, if I'm somewhere where I'm concerned about security. So for example, if I'm using this at a rest area, and I've used it before at a rest area at night where I'm sleeping, what I do is I have that chain that I showed you in the back, and I put this up closer to the wheel, and I run the chain through the wheel and through the handles of these two and lock them up for the night. And I don't expect anybody would, I mean, I'm right here, but still, it's I do that. If I'm camping somewhere and it's remote, I don't worry about that step, obviously. All right, now what I've done is I've got an extension cord that is plugged into the generator, and I run it back to the truck, or the back of the truck. And when I'm going to use it, I just run it in right through here. And when the tailgate's up and the back is down, that actually fits in pretty snug, so it doesn't create a big gap if it's raining, snowing, or a lot of wind. And then I am able to take this power strip cord that's now plugged into the Jackery and plug it into the extension cord, and then everything here is running off of the generator instead of the Jackery. And at that point, I can also then plug the Jackery into the power strip and charge it overnight. And so while this does run down during the day as I'm using it for various things that I need electricity for, it does fully recharge every night. And so it really, I haven't had any issue yet with needing to do solar systems for that. So one last thing that I kind of forgot about actually was I have a cooler that I use. So and again, I'm almost always out in the winter months, and so I haven't had a problem yet with things not staying cold. And so I've got this Arctic cooler, and it fits up into this front seat pretty well, and you can see, of course I'm not using it now, but this has worked well for what I've been doing while I'm up here. So I haven't mentioned clothes. So I do have and if we get into this later, I put all my clothes hanging up in the middle here, and have the dogs on each side if I'm taking them out somewhere, which does get some hair on things, I recognize. But another thing I wanted to mention is like socks and underwear and things like that. I have a little case here that I can put that stuff in. And so what I'm doing is basically every night I'm taking things that I need for the next morning, including underwear, socks, and shirt, pants, and everything like that, and putting it into the back of the truck the night before so that I can have it the next morning to get dressed. And then my dirty clothes are going here, and I have a bag, like a laundry bag, and I just put them in there. So there's some detail about how I do the clothes and the cooler system. All right, I'm back in the back of the truck again, and to kind of wrap up and maybe talk just a little bit about what I'm hoping to do to improve the system for next year. The only thing that I really had problems with was it was getting ready in the mornings when it was really cold outside, and really cold, I mean in the teens or colder. And I had a few instances in the winter where that was the case. And it's just I get cold, and then and then it's difficult to get that turned around. So what I'd like to do is have this set up so that just like at home, that I can do everything before I have to go out and face the cold and take care of the dogs and things like that. And so that would mean, being able to cook in here, and also being able to put all my clothes on here, coats and all, boots, before I go out. So some things I'm going to do to help with that, and I'm going to pan this around a little bit, is hopefully find a small freezer combination that I can maybe move this crate and put there, or put it where the Jackery is and kind of reconfigure things. And I think the Jackery would actually run that pretty effectively, and with little draw on its charge for the whole time. So a small fridge, freezer would be great. And then the other thing, there's quite a bit of space here as I've been sitting in here that is not being used. And so what I'd like to do is maybe put an extra shelf in here, you know, connected to the wheel well, and then maybe out to this leg and have a lip on it, and be able to have that for, and then, you know, be able to put bungees there and stuff, so I can put things there that they won't move around, or put them in there so that they won't move around if I'm driving and things like that. And what I'd like to include there is a smaller cooking system. So now I've just got that 2-burner stove, which I do bring up into the back here and use, but I have to open the tailgate up and get that out the way it's currently set up. And so just a smaller cooking system, maybe with 1 burner, that I can use to make breakfast with in here. So overall, if I can get a fridge, freezer in here, and a smaller cooking system that I can do in here without having to open up in the back, I think that would be a real plus. All right, so I think that's about it. Thanks again for watching. If you have any suggestions, I hope this has been helpful. If you're thinking about doing something, maybe some ideas that would be helpful. If you have any suggestions, I'd greatly appreciate those in terms of what you've seen here and what might be a way to do it better. That would be great. And also if you have any questions. All right, thank you.